Have you ever considered the profound power that lies within the simple act of sharing? In our journey through life, we are innately programmed to share. From sharing our first steps with our parents, our joys and sorrows with friends, to sharing our knowledge and wisdom with the world, it is an integral part of our human experience. This sharing does not limit itself to just emotions or knowledge, it extends to our material possessions as well. And it's not just a one-way street. In fact, the beauty of sharing lies in its reciprocity. The act of sharing is more than just a social obligation or a kind gesture. It is a catalyst for connection, a bridge that brings us closer to each other, fostering a sense of unity and togetherness. Sharing enhances our experiences, amplifying our joy when we are happy and providing comfort when we are down. It allows us to step out of our shells and reach out to others, creating bonds that are as enduring as they are enriching. But there's more to sharing than meets the eye. It's not just about dividing what we have, it's also about multiplying what we feel. When we share our time, our resources, our knowledge, and our experiences, we are essentially sharing a piece of ourselves. This act of giving away a part of us can be a deeply transformative experience. It can help us grow, evolve, and become better versions of ourselves. What's more, sharing brings with it a certain fearlessness. When we share, we open ourselves up to the world. We expose our vulnerabilities, our strengths, and everything in between. There's a certain courage in allowing others to see us as we are, in all our authenticity and rawness. And in this courage we find freedom. Freedom from the fear of judgment, freedom from the fear of isolation, and most importantly, freedom from the fear of scarcity. So, you see, sharing is not just an act, it's a way of life. When we share, we live without fear. We live with abundance, with joy, and with a deep sense of connection with the world around us. And that's the magic of sharing. When we share, we open ourselves up to the world, and this is when the magic happens. Let us delve into the story of Sam, a man who embodied the principles of sharing and fearlessness in his life. Sam wasn't a man of great wealth or grand possessions. He didn't live in a sprawling mansion, nor did he drive fancy cars. No, Sam was an ordinary man, living in a small cozy apartment in the heart of the city. But what made Sam extraordinary was his heart. A heart that knew only to give, to share, and to love. Sam was the kind of person who would give you his last slice of bread without a second thought. He was the man who would lend his coat to a stranger shivering in the cold. He was the neighbor who would help carry your groceries, the friend who would offer his couch when you needed a place to crash. And in return, Sam asked for nothing. Nothing but the joy of giving, the satisfaction of seeing a smile on someone else's face. He shared not because he had plenty, but because he understood the value of what he had. He understood that the real wealth isn't in the abundance of possessions but in the abundance of heart. But Sam's life wasn't always rosy. There were times when he had barely enough to get by, times when he had to choose between his needs and his generosity. But Sam never let his circumstances cloud his spirit. He lived without fear. He shared because he knew that in sharing, he was creating a ripple of kindness, a wave of positivity that would eventually find its way back to him. And indeed it did. Sam's life was rich, not in material possessions but in relationships and experiences. People were drawn to his warmth and generosity. They admired his fearlessness, his unwavering commitment to share no matter what. He was surrounded by love, respect, and gratitude. Sam's life was a testament to the power of sharing. There's an old saying that goes, "The more you give, the more you receive." And Sam's life was a living embodiment of this wisdom. He gave freely without expecting anything in return, and in the process he received more than he could have ever imagined. He received love, respect, friendship, and most importantly, a sense of fulfillment and contentment that no amount of wealth or possessions could ever provide. Sam's story is a reminder to all of us that sharing isn't about depleting what we have. It's about enriching our lives and the lives of those around us. It's about understanding that real wealth lies not in what we keep, but in what we give away. Sam's story teaches us that sharing what we have doesn't make us poorer, it makes us richer. But how does sharing lead to a fearless life? A question that may have crossed your mind, and rightfully so. Fear is an emotion that's often rooted in attachment. It's the gripping concern that something we hold dear might be taken away from us, be it our possessions, our relationships, or our status. Sharing, in essence, is an act of letting go. It's a deliberate choice to release a part of what we have, and in doing so, we begin to loosen the grip of attachment. When we share, we acknowledge that the things we have are not ours alone, but part of a larger, interconnected world. This understanding chips away at the fear that stems from the possibility of loss. Think about it this way. When we hold on tightly to a possession, the fear of losing it consumes us. We spend our days worrying about its safety, its value, its permanence. But the moment we decide to share it, we're consciously accepting its impermanence. We're telling ourselves, this thing that I have, it's not just mine, and it's okay if it's not with me forever. This act of sharing, this recognition of impermanence, liberates us from the fear of loss. It's like a bird letting go of a branch, free to soar in the sky without the fear of falling. We become that bird, unburdened and fearless, able to fully embrace the beauty of life. Sharing is not just about giving away things, it's about sharing our time, our knowledge, our experiences. And as we share more, we find that our capacity for fear diminishes. We begin to realize that life is not about holding on, but about letting go, about experiencing, learning, and growing. The beauty of sharing is that it's a two-way street. As we give, we also receive. We receive the joy of helping others, the satisfaction of making a difference, and the peace that comes with a fearless life. Sharing frees us from the shackles of fear, allowing us to live life to its fullest. What about desire? How does sharing impact our desires? Let's ponder on this for a while. We live in a world that often tells us more is better. More money, more possessions, more success. But there's a paradox at play here. The more we accumulate, the more we desire, and this cycle can become a relentless pursuit of always wanting more. It's like trying to fill a bottomless pit. No matter how much we put in, it's never enough. But what happens when we start sharing? How does this influence our desires? When we share, something magical happens. We start to realize that the joy we derive from giving is far greater than the pleasure we get from acquiring. We begin to understand that the real measure of wealth is not in how much we accumulate, but in how much we are able to give away. Sharing triggers a sense of fulfillment within us. It fills us with a deep sense of satisfaction that is far more lasting than the fleeting happiness we get from acquiring more. This fulfillment reduces our constant chase for more, our incessant desire to accumulate. But this doesn't mean we should stop desiring altogether. Desires can be healthy, they can motivate us, drive us to achieve. But when these desires become uncontrolled, when they start dictating our lives, that's when they become a problem. Imagine a life free of these relentless desires, a life where we are content with what we have, where we are not constantly chasing after more, where we are not living in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. This is a life of peace, a life of contentment, a life of fulfillment. And this is the power of sharing. By sharing what we have, we reduce our desires, we find contentment, we find peace. So the next time you find yourself caught in the endless cycle of desiring more, take a moment to share what you have. You might be surprised at how fulfilling it can be. Sharing what we have, we find that we have all that we need. So, what have we learned today? We've seen the transformative power of sharing through the story of Sam. We've discovered that by sharing what we have, we can live without fear. The fear of loss, the fear of scarcity, they simply melt away when we realize the abundance that exists in our lives. And the desire, that incessant longing for more, it too dissipates when we focus on giving rather than receiving. We've also learned that sharing is not just about material possessions. It's about sharing our time, our knowledge, our experiences, and our love. It's about creating a positive ripple effect in the world around us. The power of sharing is a potent tool to leading a fearless and desireless life. It's a practice that we should all strive to incorporate into our daily lives, not just for our own well-being, but for the betterment of our communities and our world. Share what you have, live without fear, and find contentment in the abundance of the present moment.